What is going on? Welcome to the ONFORM Podcast. My name is Roman. Good to have all of you guys joining me today for another week of ONFORM, talking about the team that we absolutely love, Liverpool FC, and all the news, all the rumors, where we're at, where we stand in the league, all the drama post FA Cup, and what is to come tomorrow, obviously, with the Merseyside Derby. So, very excited to see what some of your guys' thoughts are on this whole thing on this past week. What's the outlook for the Derby tomorrow? That is probably going to be, well, not probably, but is the last one that we will have at Goodison Park, which should be a barn burner, man, and it's most likely going to be a tough one, right? Given that they are in a resurgence. They got David Moyes back, and he seems to be doing a decent job, even though I feel like Deitch was a good stylistic match for them, and I feel like Deitch would have kept them up anyway. I think they're obviously staying up this season, but there's nothing like nostalgia that you can lean back on and sell your fans on. So David Moyes is back. They're resurging, and they will definitely feel like they can get something out of this match, without a doubt. So it's going to be something, a match that I think we definitely have to be careful about. I think it's definitely one that we are going to have to come in and pretty much perfect. I think we're going to have to be perfect tomorrow if we're going to want to get what we want to get out of it, which is a win, right? Other than that, it might look like a draw, right? And Goodison has always been one of those stadiums that we have a tough time in historically, right? So they would love nothing more but to spoil the party for us, right? And make it difficult for us to make something happen in this league, right? Just like how they did last year off the back of that Manchester United FA Cup crash, right? It's almost literally like for like what happened before, but Plymouth is playing the party poopers in this whole thing, and then we play Everton right after, right? It's almost like mirroring the exact moment that happened last year when things started to unravel and unfold for Liverpool. But I do want to just, make it super clear that I think that's not an indication of what's to come. I don't think it's an indication of what's to come at all. I think for sure it's something to consider, but I don't think it's a different team, different manager. We're in a different way. We're in a different role and things like that. So I don't think we can look too deep into it, but it is for sure going to be a tough match. We cannot lie on that whole thing. So, but let's jump into it. I'm trying to get my chat working here. Oh, there we go. Live chat. There it is. And then here we got Happily in here. The in-laws, Blue Noses, all of them think they're going to win. And it's honestly, they have the right to think that, right? They have the right to believe that they're gonna get something out of this match. I mean, they've won 3 in a row now, and they look to just be in a good way. But we've won several in a row, and we've only lost one match all season. So it's going to be a good match, and I hope there's the intensity that we get from some Merseyside derbies. Some of them lack a little bit of the intensity, right? But I really hope that we come out guns blazing and we try to put the foot on the throat and we try to end this quickly, right? I think that's one of the things that we didn't do a whole ton under Jurgen Klopp when we would play Everton, especially at home, is come out and be fiery and be the way that we typically are. So I really want to see that. I want to see how we came out against Tottenham. I want to see them do the same thing that they did against Tottenham, against this Everton side, because speed is going to be everything. The main thing David Moyes is going to want to do is he's going to want to slow this game down, almost to a turtle crawl, right? Have Liverpool knocking it around amongst their center backs for 90 minutes, and then steal a goal off of a corner or a fast break. We already know that that's going to be the tactics coming into it. So we have to come out of the gates fast and make them have to play football. And kind of like what we did with Tottenham, getting that early goal, it forces the other team to start chasing the game and come out of that defensive shell, because then it looks like, okay, you're settling for a loss, right? So the key, I think, in that Everton game is going to be getting an early goal, man. Getting an early goal. So, and then Nigel, what's up, man? How you doing, brother? It has been a while. Been ducking the media since the kids screwed up the quad. Believe it or not, it wasn't the kids. It wasn't the kids, man. It was our second string that kind of messed us up. The kids more so at PSV, but for Plymouth, I think personally, at least, that Slot actually filled a pretty capable squad, and none of them were kids. Oh well, obviously like three. I think there was McConnell was on the field. Trent Doherty came on late. And then who else was on the field? That was a youngster. I wouldn't even put Elliott in that category either. I'd say Kwanzaa is a really a full blooded first team player. I think he's out of that whole youth player kind of mode already. I feel like he's a full fledged first team player, professional. Um, and Trey and Yoni. I would say it was Trey, Trent, Doherty, and McConnell. I guess you could throw into that mix as well. So it was really only three youth players that got to play. There was a lot of them on the bench, but there was really only like three full fledged, you would call them youth players, and maybe you wouldn't even do the same thing with McConnell. The rest were just backups, right? The rest were just kind of our second string, or players that actually typically start a lot of those games, in Diaz, in Jota when he's fit, and in Nunez when Jota is not fit, right? Obviously Chiesa is still one that we're just trying to get on track with a lot of those things. Elliott is one that's battling for playtime against those three colossus in midfield. It's going to be hard for him to get over that. So for the most part, those are players that are getting first team minutes. I mean, Tsimikas is even has gotten more minutes than he typically does in a regular season because of Robertson's form. So I can't say it was the kids that screwed that up this time, unfortunately. And a lot of the kids that I would want to see in that match didn't even get to play. Rio didn't get to play. Stefan Bajcetic is out on loan. I would love to have seen Bobby Clark in a game like that, but he doesn't play for us anymore, right? Luis Kumas, Ben Doak, a lot of the really, really promising youngsters that I look at and I'm like, okay, they may have something that could take them to the next level, and they could potentially become either A, a very serviceable player for us, or B, go into that world-class level, especially with Ben Doak, especially with Stefan Bajcetic, all of those super, super promising players that I really, really like. They either not at the club or they didn't play, which is very interesting. So, yeah, and then Yoni, for sure. Moyes will play to win the second ball in midfield, for sure, which is why our midfield is going to be key. They are going to try to bully Maka in there and for sure target Trent. You know it. You know for a fact they're going to try to target Trent, and they're going to try to bully Maka in midfield. So it's going to be really up to Ryan to use his physicality. Ryan and Sabo are going to be very important in this match tomorrow because they are so big. Sabo's 6'1", I believe Ryan is 6'3", 6 or something like that. Their physicality and their ability to run and get on the ball is going to be very important to alleviate some of the pressure that without a doubt, they're going to put on Maka. Maka's going to be fiery. Maka, even though they try to bully Maka, Maka is up for the fight every single time. But this game will for sure be won and lost in midfield, without a doubt, happily. And then happily said, not surprised, not upset about the loss to Plymouth, not Pennsylvania. And then Reese says, time for the superior athletes to impose their will tomorrow. No passengers. Exactly, Reese. Exactly. Kind of like what I was just saying there, that it's going to be a physical game, man. This is going to be a physical game, and it's going to be a battle in midfield. So you got to start Szoboszlai. It can't be Jones. It can't be Jones. You got to start Szoboszlai. You got to put Ryan in there. You got to put Maka in there, the battlers in there, which is obviously a given, right? And as for Trent, you may put Connor in there. you may put Connor in there instead of Trent, and maybe bring Trent on late when the legs are kind of going in the Everton side and stuff like that, and he gets more space to be creative and do his thing, because they are going to come after that, man. You know that. We all know that. We all know that that's the tactic for most teams, especially against this current Liverpool side, is bully Mac in the midfield and try to attack Trent as much as you possibly can. Thankfully, Ibu Konate has been out of this world of VVD levels this season. So a lot of the overload that they try to do on Trent hasn't worked as well as they've done in previous seasons against Klopp. And then Trent's gotten better defensively as well. So I can't say that, I don't trust Trent 100%, but the way that Connor Bradley has been playing, I think you need that rough and tumble, all action, very physical type of right back in a game like this. And maybe we could even see Darwin Núñez play in attack, because just to add to the physicality in that midfield, right? Where Darwin is so good at getting back and tracking, and he's so good at winning headers, and he's so good at being that extra person in midfield. I'm thinking you may even put Darwin in there just to be an extra 8, right? Or just to be an extra 10 a little bit and bring the physicality that you're probably going to need in that match. Obviously, Gakpo on the left, Salah on the right. It's that simple. And I like Robbo in there. I know a lot of people have been shouting for Tsimikas, including myself, but I think in a game like this, I think you go with Robbo. I think you definitely go with Robbo. I don't think there's too much of a threat on that right-hand side for us to be like, oh, crap. I don't know. I think it's good enough there. I think the recovery speed looks better now, and I think his tenacity is going to be really well needed. And then you go VVD, and then you go Konate, and then you put Ali in goal. It's that simple. I think that's the obvious lineup. I think the only thing that you really think about is who's going to play as the forward and who's going to be the right back. And for me, I'm probably going with Bradley. And then as for the forward, I'm probably going with Núñez. I don't think Jota's all the way ready just yet to start in a game like that. He'll get injured in minutes, bro. So I think you take Núñez off maybe at the 70. Yeah, Núñez off at the 70, potentially. You put Jota on and you try to come and see if he can, snatch a goal at some point. And then Rester says, what's up, Rester? How you doing? Good to see you in here. Mo likes to score against Everton, and VVD needs a goal against them. He had a warm-up the other day. I really do hope we start scoring from corners, because we get so many of them. And our corners have been so bad lately, like so bad. So I do hope we do start picking it up from corners and things like that. So I would love for VVD to get one. I'd love for Mo to get one tomorrow. And then Brian in here, what's up, brother? Good to see you. Good to see you. And then I read this stat the other day that I thought that was really crazy, and I wanted to kind of bring up on the podcast here about Liverpool and about how we have been able to really mitigate a lot of the a lot of the injuries. And I said, and I think most Liverpool supporters, we've been able to kind of see this in action, and we've been able to see the benefits and the rewards from this. Well, Liverpool are 22nd in the league in terms of distance traveled on the field, which is crazy. Absolutely insane. We're 22nd in the league in terms of distance traveled, miles ran, and amount of pitch covered, which is a far cry from what we used to be with Jurgen Klopp, right? And you know what's so interesting? Arsenal is second in the league in that category, and they have some of the most injuries. I'm interested to see who's number one in that category. I have a feeling that it might be Tottenham and it might be Newcastle. That'd be really interesting stat to pull up. Let me see if I can pull that up as we get going here. But it was very, very interesting that we've been able to kind of manage game time, like I've mentioned over and over and over before, and why I've really admired Slot and what he's been able to do with this team is that we've been able to rest almost in games, right? The whole resting on the ball thing. And I know a lot of people, some people don't believe in it. I'm a believer in it. I think we are seeing the benefits of not having the all-out football constantly and not trying to cover as much ground and not trying to press the opposition into the ground. I think we're seeing some of the benefits of that where we're seeing less injuries and we're needing to rotate less. And I know a lot of people are like, Brian is being ran into the ground. His legs are going to look like noodles by the end of the season. I don't think that's actually happening because we've been able to not cover as much ground in games, which is very interesting, right? You would think that we do cover more ground because we have more possession, but I don't know. Maybe I'm thinking backwards on that. But Happily says, we've had a bit of success with Tsimikas takes the short corner from the right. We have. His delivery has been good all season, honestly, and all set pieces. It's just the defense that I worry about him a little bit. He wasn't great against Plymouth the other day in terms of going forward, but and against Everton, I'm not sure. And then Brian said that's crazy to comprehend. That's crazy compared to the Klopp stats. And I'm sure we were probably in the top 5 every season with Jurgen Klopp. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull that up really quick. Without a doubt. So let's see. Distance covered. So let's pull up Squawka. That's what I thought. Wow. Burnley is number 1. Oh, wait, no. This is last season. Interesting. So we were in the top 10 last season, right? Burnley was number 1. Everton was number 2. And Arsenal was still number 3. They're number 2 this year, by the way. Arsenal was still number 3, which they had a lot of injuries last season as well. Man City was number 5. Newcastle was 6. And we were actually 10. So we were in the top 10. So we went from 10th all the way down to 22nd. This is last year's stats. And then last year, Aston Villa was 20th. And they had such a great season, right? And he's so good. Unai Emery is so good at controlling games and being smart about the pacing and things and stuff like that. 19th in mileage. I saw 22nd in mileage the other day, but I could be wrong. 100% could be wrong. And then let's see. Who else we got in here? We're in the Premier League Stats Center. So the fact that we were in the top 10 last season under Jurgen Klopp and Jurgen Klopp's last ever season, all the way to being nearly at the very bottom, right, is very impressive from Arne Slot to be able to transition this team and still kind of look identical, right, and still kind of look very similar to the Jurgen Klopp team in terms of how we press. We just press different, right? We press a lot smarter now, which I think is the big thing, right? So, and then I'm looking here, our stats from, let's go to 2025, 2024, 2025. And then last season, our statistics were, we had 20 shots per game last season under Jurgen Klopp. And our possession was 61%, which is very interesting because that's actually really good. Only team that had higher possession statistics than us last season is, of course, Manchester City. We actually have had less of the ball this season. Sky may know something. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. I heard it was 22nd, but 19th it's still really impressive as well. To drop down 9 places as well. The point is that I actually think we have less of the ball. We're starting to have less of the ball, even though I harbor on a lot about Arne Slot really wanting possession, but maybe he doesn't. And that's allowing our team to kind of rest a little bit more. We have the most possession in the league, by the way. Last year, we had 61% possession all year long, more under Klopp than under Slot. Actually, no, that is incorrect. Manchester City still have the most. We have the third most. And then our shots on target are only 17.9 instead of 20.9. So we're taking less shots. We're giving up more of the ball, which may kind of explain the reason why we're covering less ground, right? And tackles per 90, we only put in 17. Oh wait, no. We have some of the highest well, actually, it's kind of normal. Actually, we put in some of the least, 17 tackles per 90. And then in terms of interceptions per 90, it's also pretty low, 7.9. That is really interesting. Looking at some of these stats. I was not expecting some of those stats. So Slot does shut the team down when we're in the lead with 15 minutes to go. He does manage the game better. Interesting. He does have a lot different game management, right? And it looks like it's better. It looks like it's much better than it used to be. So it's very interesting on how this whole thing is kind of panned out. And what's really interesting is obviously you want to look at, okay, that's great. We have less of the ball. We're putting in less tackles. What does that mean for us in the long run? Our XG is the highest in the league. So I'm looking at these stats. I'm like, actually kind of mind blown. Our XG is the highest in the league. And we're tackling less. We're taking less shots than last season. And we have less possession. That's actually showing that we've become much, much more efficient. Our XG is like, the next one in line is 51, which is Chelsea. Ours is 60.6. So we're getting more quality chances, which is why we're scoring more goals without needing to shoot as much, without needing to have the ball as much, which is very, very interesting compared to last year. We do have the most shots, by the way, in the league at the same time, which kind of makes sense. But we've had less of the ball, we press less, and we're resting players more. Slot is a psychopath, I think. I think he's crazy, man. He's crazy. Let's see what it is compared to last year. Our XG compared to last year. Our XG last year, obviously this is in a full season kind of stretch, was 93. Interesting. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening by the end of this coming season in terms of where our XG ends up landing. But it's very interesting to look at some of these stats, and you can kind of see some of the tinkering that Slot is doing with this team. It's similar, but it's different at the same time. And I'll be very interested to see what he ends up doing with this Liverpool team. Who ends up moving on? Who ends up staying? What his vision is for the team in terms of how we play. Because I think it'll probably look a little bit different coming into next year. And I'm not going to say probably, I'm going to say it for sure will look different next year. And with some of the rumors coming out about Luis Diaz, about Nunes, about some of these players that he's not all the way happy with, it kind of starting to make sense now while we're seeing links with some more wingers, with Kavica Kvaratskhelia, why that was a whole a rumor, and why we were linked with Jamie Binu Gittins, why Cherokee keeps getting brought up, right? We were linked with Marmouche for a little bit. We were linked with I can't remember what the kid's name is from Dortmund, Kareem Adeyemi. Why a lot of these attackers keep getting linked with us is maybe because we actually are keeping tabs on some of these players and we're looking for a different profile. So he also tends to utilize subs more than Klopp. That brings the average mileage down. That's true, especially in the beginning when he first came in and when he was resting Trent pretty heavily and even bringing off Salah early as well as on that. And then Brian says, I wonder how these stats change with different attacking lineups and who's in which position in which formation. I don't know if there is a website that can even break that down or if that's even a possibility, but that'd be interesting. I'm pretty sure Klopp has it. I mean, it's not Klopp. Slot has that information, but it's very interesting. Yeah, and I think next year we will be radically different. I think so too. I think Slot is such a smart manager. He's making sure that we play a similar way to how we played under Klopp. So these players, they don't have to do too much rehashing of what they learned from last season, but still play in a very Slot-esque way. I think we're going to see a lot more tiki-taka next year. I think we're going to see a lot more slick passing movement next year. And I think we're going to get a lot of very technical ball playing type of players in the side. So it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening. And then No Friction says, I've yet to hear Slot complain about any player. That is a big, big key for me. And that I think not enough people talk about and not enough people bring up. Slot hasn't thrown a single player underneath the bus once all season. Not one time. He has supported every single player. Maybe he said, sure, he may need to do better in this area, but I know what player that I have. I know he has that in him. Like the whole Nunes thing, when Nunes was under fire for a little bit, he's like, that's a part of being a forward. You have those moments where, you can't stop scoring. And then there's some moments where you're just like, damn, the ball's never going to go into the back of the net. Where another manager, a Ruben Amorim, could say, I'm putting the pitch manager on there, or I'm putting the kit manager on the field before I put Marcus Rashford on the field. Right? Obviously, two different scenarios. But if you're a smart manager, you don't throw your players under the bus publicly like that. Which is what I love about Arne Slot. And even if we weren't in the best way and we weren't winning, I still have a strong feeling that wouldn't happen. Right? And even with the whole Szoboszlai thing, and when Szoboszlai was on that drought a little bit, he handled that so masterfully. He's like, oh, Szoboszlai has all the tools. He's got all the tools to be a top number 10. We're just missing the goals and assists, and I believe that'll come. And they came, right? So the man management, I think, needs to be acknowledged a little bit more with Arne Slot. I think he's fantastic at it. I know that's not one thing that we look at in terms of his strength, a lot of the tactical side and things like that. But I think he's done a really good job in man management and stuff like that. It's very different than Klopp. It's less big bro or dad like. It's more mother like. It's more like a mom, right? You know what I mean? So it's interesting. And then Doak will be back. Ben Doak will be back, and I think he does stay with this side, and I do think he does get an opportunity and chance. He's been playing really well at Middlesbrough, and I can't wait to see him in the side. And then Brian says, I wager we'll sell Jota and maybe Nunes. I think we will too. I think Saudi Arabia will come back for Nunes, and I think we're going to try to recoup the transfer fee. I think they want I think Edwards and Hughes are holding out for 80 million, which I think that they will get. And then Jota is another one that will probably fetch a pretty big fee as well, especially with what he's done for Liverpool in the past, albeit injury prone. There is interest from other places. I can see him playing in Italy. I can see him playing for a Milan side or something like that. And hopefully he gets the send-off he deserves. A cult hero Jota is. But I think his time at Liverpool may be coming to an end. He's just really struggling to stay fit. One of my favorite players, for sure, in the Klopp era, came in, was an absolute animal. He gives 110% every single time, which I think may be a little bit to his detriment. He's a bit of a crash test dummy sometimes, right? But outstanding player. And I think if he was one of those guys that could just stay fit, he's like a Daniel Sturridge, right? Daniel Sturridge probably could have been one of our greatest ever forwards ever, and I will stand on that until the day that I die. To the day that I die. Luis Suarez was so damn good, we forgot how good Daniel Sturridge actually was at that same time. Daniel Sturridge was so damn good, bruh. But he just could not stay fit past that season. And even in that season, to be able to bag as many goals that he did with how injury prone he was absolutely impressive. Natural born finisher, man. So loved him. Same thing with Jota, and it'll be sad to see him go, but I think this is probably going to be his last season. And then Brian, see you, brother. I see you. You're jumping off here. You have a good one, brother. And then Happily says the changing role from manager to coach means Slot should never cause friction. In the past, the old style managers discipline players. Right, exactly. So his goal is to make them feel good. His goal is to make them feel like they're wanted at the club and to perform at the highest level, which I think he's doing really well. And then No Friction says, I like Delap. Maybe not a popular opinion, but he's a menace. Delap is good. Delap is a good player. He's one that I've kept an eye on for a really long time. I just don't. I don't love the fact that a lot of these players that we get linked with don't have fantastic stats, right? And I'm a big stat guy, and so is the Liverpool staff. 11 goals and assists this season is not terrible. I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you saying that's bad. That's a bad season for playing at a bottom of the table type of team, and to be able to bag that is actually pretty good. I think he would be a fantastic Moneyball type of signing, but I feel like he's built in a similar mold to Nunez, right? Physical forward, great shot power, work rate out of this world, loves to bully defenders. It's a similar type of vibe. And then for those that are saying like Isak is going to be the one, I don't know. Because for me, it's just like, I get he's a fantastic forward and probably the best one in the league right now. But who says that Newcastle is going to be willing to part ways with him? Right. A lot of people are saying, I'm hearing Arsenal fans saying we're getting Isak. I'm hearing Chelsea fans saying we're getting Isak. I hear our fans saying we're getting Isak. But it's just like, who says that Newcastle is going to want to part ways with their star striker, the best one in the league, and give it to a direct rival? It just doesn't make sense to me, right? That move just makes no sense to me at all. I'd love for Liverpool to go and dig up a deal somewhere with a player whose stats are at that level where we're like, okay, this guy could be a killer with the right pieces around him. He was able to produce this and this type of side season after season after season. And for me personally, if I'm Liverpool staff, I'm looking at Jonathan David. And you guys have heard me, talk about this over and over before. I'm looking at Jonathan David. I'm looking at him and I'm thinking, okay, it's been 4 seasons and he's averaged at the minimum, right? At the minimum 20 goals and assists every season. I know it's in the French league, but he's doing this on the international stage as well and in the Champions League as well, right? And for me, Jonathan David, one, is free, right? You can sign him on a free transfer. He's at that age that we like to sign players if we do go for an older profile, which is in that 24, 25-year-old range. And he's just an animal for me. And his link-up play is some of the best that I think in Europe, personally. Right? I like that as a move. If we're going to go for like a Moneyball type of option, Isak is not Moneyball. He's going to be $120 million striker for sure. And then he's a better finisher than Nunez, but he lacks the defensive qualities. Delap, right? True. I think there's a ton of players that probably are better finishers than Nunez is, but Nunez does give you different things. But at that point, it's just like, are you fielding a midfielder or a defender, or are you fielding a forward, right? And then Reese says, potentially unpopular thought, but there's a world where we actually want Gordon from Newcastle to pair with a super under the radar striker. I love that. I absolutely love that. And then that is there, right? Right, Reese? So like if Diaz goes, if Nunez goes, the opportunity to fill in on that left wing, there is an opening there, which kind of explains why we were going for Gordon in the summer as an opportunity signing, is because I think the understanding was that Diaz was going to go and that Nunez was going to go. And that's why I think FSG was pushing so hard for that Gordon signing and trying to move Gomez with him in that signing, because it was very clear that Gomez wanted to go, and that was very public, which is very unusual for us. A lot of people forget about that, is that Gomez wanted to go. And that Slots even like went public and was like, yeah, we had a very adult conversation about his future and he was looking for a move, which is why he didn't travel with us. I don't know if you guys remember that. Remember I think we had some away game or something like that where Gomez didn't travel and is like, is he injured? And then like Slots like, nah, he's probably going to be leaving the club, but he didn't, right? And all of those rumors swirling around with Gordon, and Gordon was convinced that he was going. He was with the English team, and he was telling everybody he was going to Liverpool and stuff like that. But the move didn't materialize because I think Diaz was supposed to go to Barcelona and not. And they were supposed to move Rafinha or something like that, or they were supposed to instead go for Diaz instead of Olmo, and it didn't materialize. And then that's why that move didn't materialize. Let me tell you right now, Reese, I was not a believer in Gordon. I love that kid. I love that kid. I love Reese. I mean, I love you too, Reese, but I love Gordon so much. I think he's such a fit for Liverpool. Very dynamic, very direct, absolute monster in the box as well. Could play, essentially plays as a two-man to Isak, right? Just like a wide two-man to Isak. And I think he could potentially do some damage with us, man. I love that move so much. So we'll see. That would be a crazy under the radar type of signing for sure. Jonathan David with Gordon, with Mo Salah on that right hand side. I like that. With Gakpo and Gordon swapping in and out, pick your poison. Who do you want to go up against? Come on, bruh. Give me that now. With Sabo in full flow, Ryan Gravenberch, McAllister. I'm hearing some stuff about Frankie de Jong. I'm hearing stuff about Joshua Kimmich, which would be very smart signings and very FSG signings, almost like a Thiago, right? A Thiago type of signing where you bring him in as an older kind of guy to bring in some leadership, especially if some players are moving on, some more senior players are moving on. You bring in that experience. You sign them on a one contract kind of deal, 3 years, 2 years. Then after that, they understand that they're not going to get renewed probably, right? I think that's kind of how the Thiago deal kind of materialized as well. I think those would be outstanding. And you give the opportunity for the young players to continue to develop under experienced players, right? And they're not in their way in the future. You give Elliott another year, 2 years to kind of get better. You give McConnell another year, 2 years to get better, right? You give Stefan Bajcetic another year, 2 years to get better in the squad under the tutelage of a Joshua Kimmich, under the tutelage of a Frankie de Jong. But then you have the quality there in some more senior type players that aren't that old, right? Kimmich is 29, right? De Jong is in his mid-20s as well. So it's something that you definitely want to look into. And I'm seeing Frankie is injury prone. He is injury prone, but he's going to be like a Chiesa for us, right? Where we're not wanting him to play every game. We're wanting him to come in against Plymouth, right? And make a difference and be the quality, be the edge, be the step up instead of having to continue put Ryan Gravenberch in there and put VVD in there, right? And then let's see here. Let's catch up on some of these comments. Darwin's work rate is very good. Gina, his work rate is fantastic. And I would love to, if he does stay at the club, I'd love to see him make a Joelinton type of switch that Joelinton did at Newcastle. Similar height, similar profile, physical, was bought as a forward, was supposed to be the next, big thing out of South America, and didn't end up panning out. Eddie Howe comes in, transforms him into an 8, and he's one of the better 8s in the league, which I think Nunes has all of the tools to do that. Some of the passing that he does is actually really good. A lot of people says Nunes can't pass. Look at some of the passes he puts together, especially when he drops into midfield and he finds Mo. And then Roy Paul says, just briefly looked at Jonathan Daly, looks to have a great first touch, and he has the Gravenberch turn. That's what I'm saying, yo. I don't know how no team has gotten on Jonathan David and had him in for talks at the very minimum. Jonathan David is a very good footballer, and he's been a very good footballer for a long time. Like since he was like 20 years old, I've had my eye on Jonathan David, and he's been able to produce this at the highest level as well. Like he's produced for Canada in World Cup qualifiers and CONCACAF at the World Cup. Like he's scoring goals and can play as a 10, which is what I love. He's a very versatile forward. Great. I mean, he scored against us. I don't know if you guys knew that, but he scored against us last time we played him. So I like Jonathan David a lot. And then Reese says, love you too, friend. But yeah, Gordon's speed over there is crazy and always seems to find himself around the post. He just does. He has a nose for goal. I don't know what happened this season. I don't know if that's like something new for Anthony Gordon, because I haven't really kept an eye on him too much until he was linked with us over the Euros. But he just does such a good job in getting into dangerous areas, following up on shots, making opportunities for Isak. I mean, his speed is blinding, and it opens things up for Isak to get into positions to be dangerous. Him and Isak together are just, it's an unfair combo, bro. When they're in full tilt and in full flight, I'm like, oh God, here we go. They scare me in the final. They scare me. They do. Because they're one of those teams that can just show up on any day and give you problems. And then Happily says, I doubt we can pry any players from Newcastle. That's what I'm saying, Happily. That's what I'm saying. Like, a lot of people are like pushing for some of these signings from Newcastle. They're competing. They would be dumb to sell Anthony Gordon and Isak, but I don't know. And I feel like they're not in a position where they need money. So I just don't understand why they would even move any of their players on. If anything, they should probably add another piece to that right-hand side, because I don't think Almiron is it. If they add a dangerous right winger, fuck, bro. Newcastle's going to be a problem. Newcastle's going to be a problem if they add a dangerous right winger, man. So, Happily also says, I think you're looking at relative unknowns coming in. They start on the lower wage and alleviate the wage bill. I think we will too. I know there was a Franco Matsutano link, who I think is very good, who would be a relatively cheap type of acquisition, but high potential, high reward, low risk. And then Happily said, I expect Hughes and Co to bring in players of a similar quality to Howson and Kirkes. Howson was a huge find. Howson is going to be very expensive, though, if we do go after Howson. I like Gerald Hato because he's probably going to be like a 20 or 30. I bring him up almost every time we talk about rumors. But can play in that left back, is a combo, left back, center back. I think Hato is one of those players that can play everywhere. Like the Timber twins, right? Quentin Timber is one that I think we need to look out for. I think if Slot goes back and goes shopping at Feyenoord for anybody, any of those players back at Feyenoord, it's Quentin Timber. It's Quentin Timber, guys. Quentin Timber can do everything. When I talk about Hato, about him being able to do everything, no, Quentin Timber can do everything. Quentin Timber can play every position on the pitch that you ask him to play. Look up Quentin Timber, guys. Look up that guy. I mean, and I feel like that maybe is a type of player that Slot is looking for, right? A do-it-all type of player. He found that in Ryan, right? Who does have that Ajax education that Quentin has as well, where he can be a deep line midfielder. He can be a creator. He also can be an attacking player. He can play right back. He can play left back. He can be a center back. He plays above his weight, right? You know, Quentin's, I believe, is only like 5'10", but he's a fantastic jumper, extremely strong. If we go back shopping for anybody at Feyenoord, I want it to be Quentin Timber. He is a Swiss Army knife. It's very similar to his brother Urian, who can play on the right, can play on the left, can be a DM, can play as a center back as well. Very, very similar. With that Ajax education, most of those midfielders can do that, right? So, and then Gina said, Isak is injury prone too. Another piece that a lot of people aren't thinking about. Isak is injury prone too. He has a tough time staying on the pitch. And then Reese says, speaking of left back, do we like Anthony Robertson? I love Anthony Robertson. The only thing is that he doesn't fit the FSG transfer policy. That's the only thing that I worry about Anthony Robertson. I love him. Fantastic. 10 assists this season is freaking nuts, by the way. 10 assists this season is absolutely insane. And I believe last season he had the most last chance or last man stops because of how insanely fast he is, and won the most tackles last season, if I'm not mistaken. So it isn't that he's bad defensively and only attacks. He's actually really good defensively and really good offensively as well. The only thing that's worked against Anthony Robinson is his age, sadly. If he was 2 years younger, this would be a no-brainer type of signing for Liverpool and FSG. It'd be a no-brainer type of signing. But I feel like in 2 and 3 years, we're going to have to go shopping for another left back because he will be 30, 31 years old, right? Because he's 27 now, and he is, I believe he's turning 28 this year, right? So I don't know. I don't expect Housen or Kirkes, just players of the same quality, probably players from U21 national teams. Yeah, I don't expect them to come in as well. I know there's some rumors about Housen and Kirkes that they're on the list for this summer. I don't think so. I think they'll just be too expensive to go get. And they won't be too, it isn't that we won't be able to afford them. It's just FSG wouldn't want to spend money on, they wouldn't want to get money balled, if that makes sense. They like doing the money balling instead of getting money balled, right? So I don't expect those to come in. If they do, I think it's one of the two, and most likely Kirkes than Housen. And then what about David Hanko? David Hanko is another one that I like as well, and is a combo center back as well. But the issue with Hanko is too old. Another one of those that just he peaked at the wrong time, unfortunately. Him and Anthony Robinson are fantastic players, very good at what they do. Good solid left back in Hanko's situation, center back, but they are just a year, 2 year too old for Liverpool to even just reasonably look at them, given how we operate in the transfer market. They have to be a Thiago, right? A Kimmich, a De Jong, a clear, proven superstar that maybe is in the twilight of their year. That's the only time I really see FSG kind of step outside of that. I know Milner was a carryover, but you think Milner, you think of a Henderson type. I'm obviously not superstars, but they're proven type of talents that you can come in and they'll be good leaders for your team, and they can mentor and coach the younger players and see out one contract and then leave, right? Hanko and Anthony Robinson don't fit that mold, right? They don't fit the transfer mold, and then they don't fit the exception mold, right? So I like both of those players. I think they are very capable, and I'm sure Slot would want both of those players, especially David Hanko. But unfortunately, he does not make the decisions when it comes to transfers at the end of the day, right? So those are the main things that I wanted to talk about today. We're going to keep this one a bit brief, as in terms of on form, out of form. We're not going to really talk about that week since it was kind of like a bye week. It was mainly FA Cup action. We'll talk more about that after tomorrow on the next week's episode and this weekend. But let's put some predictions down in the chat for the Everton game. Let's see. Do we have predictions? I am going to go 3-1. I'm going to go 3-1. I am going to go 3-1 on this one in favor of Liverpool. I'm going to go 3-1 Liverpool. I'm going to predict a Mo Salah goal. Sabo, I think, will bag another one. Gakpo. That's what I'm going with that. Salah, Sabo, Gakpo. I think that makes sense. Let's see if my parlay hits, man. But I appreciate all of you. You guys have an amazing day. Thanks for tuning in to the ONFORM Podcast. I'm going to start uploading these again to all streaming platforms. I know I said that last week, but I promise this time my storage was full, so I had to delete all the last ones. But this one, starting forward, we're going to get it done. So appreciate all of you guys. Thanks for tuning in again, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.